Welcome back. Now we try to understand some of the methods based on growing stock and increment. The first method in this we have is Austrian method or the Austrian assessment method, which was originated in 1788 by an Austrian tax collector. Now it's broadly based on three things: that if your growing stock is normal, actual increment should be removed, and if your growing stock is more than normal, the excess over the normal should be removed, and if actual growing stock is less than normal, less than the actual increment should be removed. And you know the you should consistently strive to bring your forest to the normality, and the period you take to get that forest into a normal forest is called as equalization period. And eventually he came up with a formula which you can see here is y is equal to yield is equal to I is the increment, VA is the actual growing stock, minus VN is the normal growing stock divided by the rotation. And R, you can say, is the period during which the difference between the normal and actual growing stock is to be adjusted. The equalization period I talked about, mostly it is equivalent to the rotation. So this is your Austrian method. Now we have another method which is based on diameter classes, which and it's called as French method of 1882. So the method is sometimes called as Cotter-Blue method of yield regulation. It's applied in irregular forests, as the previous ones were also applied to irregular forests. All the modifications can also of the von Mantel's formula can also be applied to the irregular forests. Now, what is the essence of French method is that it assumes an irregular forest which is not of uniform age to behave just like an even-aged forest. The only difference being is that you have to assume that various ages, instead of occupying separate areas, are intermingled. So just like we take yield from a normal from a regular forest, even-aged forest, we can take it from an irregular forest, as if the same thing can be conceptualized in the form of this triangle ABC, wherein just like even-aged forest, we have divided the entire growing stock into three categories: young, medium, and old. So ultimately what we do is he has in this method the yield can in irregular forest, in uneven aged forest, we get yield from felling of matured diameter classes. So this class has to be felled. This is the oldest class where from we can get the yield. So yield in R by 3, it forms a third of the rotation down to diameter classes. Yield in R by 3 rotation is equal to V naught. V naught is your volume of old class, plus V naught into T1 is the increment per unit volume per annum of old class. Is the increment T1 is the increment in the old class, in this old class, and into is the rotation R by 3 upon 2. So this is the total yield over the rotation. Now to convert this into annual yield, we have to divide this total yield by R by 3. So we have to get the annual yield, V naught is to be divided by R by 3, and this whole term is also to be divided by R by 3. So R by 3 here in this term gets cancelled, so V naught gets R by 3. So this is the formula through which we can estimate yield using French method. Now what is the procedure? Procedure is you have to divide the entire growing stock. Likewise, you have to divide this entire growing stock into 1, 2 and 3 dia classes, that is old, medium and young. Now we have to enumerate the first two classes. First two classes means old and medium. We have to enumerate this one and we have to enumerate this class. So we are doing enumeration up to medium and old, up to from old to up to medium class. Now, if the proportion of old and medium class is 5 is to 3, if the proportion, this is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 5 and 1, 2, 3, as you can see in the form of smaller triangles, the forest is to be enumerated as normal. And the two classes are just like the periodic blocks in any regular shelter wood system, if you remember. These can act as any two periodic blocks. So this periodic block ultimately will get converted into this old periodic block, medium periodic block will get converted into old periodic block, which is to be filled for the to get the increment which can form your yield. So divided into three, and the two classes were to be like periodic blocks of even age divided into three periodic blocks instead of two, like in Howard's modification. We can divide it into two, like in Howard's modification. Now the old class, sorry, can be removed during the first 1/3 of the rotation. So in 1/3 of the rotation, this entire old class is to be removed as the yield, and now when another 1/3 of the rotation will pass, this medium class will gradually transform into the old class, and at that point of time, this again it will become old, and the yield will again be removed from this old class. So this is about French method. Now there are some cases in the French method you need to understand those. If V old and growing stock in the old and in the medium is normal, yield is to be directly determined, that is volume and its increment during 1/6 of rotation divided by 1/3 of rotation. If volume old is greater than, in proportion than volume medium, lower dietaries are transferred to volume in the medium to maintain the proportion. Now third case is if volume in the old plus volume in the medium is less than normal, only very old and decrepit trees from volume old may be removed. Now the fourth case is that if volume in the old plus volume in the medium is greater than normal, excess in the growing stock volume old plus volume medium has to be removed in addition to the normal calculated yield for the 1/3 rotation. So these things have to be kept into consideration to bring the forest back into normality.